I knew I would be spending a lot of money on this hobby when I first fell deep into it a little over a year ago. That's why, from the beginning, I used this notebook to keep track of every single purchase I made. Every single notebook, planner, notebook/planner cover, pen, pencil, eraser, correction tape, glue, refills for the aforementioned accessories, pen cases, everything is all right here. Today, I'm going to tell you which items I get the most use out of and which items were flops. I'm very happy to be able to say that I have a lot more items under the best purchases category than I do under the worst purchases category. So what I'm going to do is share one item from my worst purchases at a time, and then let that lead us into some of my best purchases as alternatives, or at least as items that achieve something similar or are of the same category of tool. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the conversation surrounding consumerism in the stationery community. I love that conversation is happening, because minimizing anything to buying more stuff or thinking that you have to spend a small fortune on anything to enjoy it isn't kind to our wallet, our home planet, or our mental health. However, I do think some level of consumerism is inevitable in any hobby we become interested in. And it's especially easy to justify buying new stationery goodies because the nature of them is temporary, finite. We're not supposed to use the same thing forever, right? We fill up notebooks and we need new ones. We lose pencils or even use them all up and need to replace them. And many of the things needed for this hobby are quite inexpensive, so it can be hard to say no, meaning it can be easy to go overboard, which is definitely what I did. I wondered a few times in my journey if I was sucking all the fun out of it for myself because I always felt like I needed a new thing, and that's never a fun place to be in. So, my intention with this video isn't to encourage or influence you to buy more stuff. It's to encourage you to take it slow and reflect on your experiences with the items you already have, and use that reflection to guide your future purchases, because that's what's going to guide us towards smarter consumption and thusly lesser consumption. Wow, wasn't that just such a cute little intro I made? I'm pretty proud of that, so I decided to keep it. So I made that at the end of 2023. I wrote a whole script, I recorded me speaking the whole script, and I was in the process of trying to record video in order to match some decently pleasing visuals to the audio I recorded, but I found that was a really overwhelming way to work. I hated it. I got super overwhelmed, so I just dropped that video completely, even though I was pretty sure that it would kind of bring me a lot of views from the stationery community. But now it's been long enough that it's like I haven't worked on it at all, and I'm rejuvenated and I've come back to it, and I still have the script here. I hope you don't mind. I will be referring to it quite a lot. At some points might just straight up be reading from it, sorry. But yeah, instead of trying to record everything separately, I'm just gonna have this main video. I'm capturing some sick ass audio with my little I think it's MV88 from Shure. It's like an iPhone microphone. You can also get like a USB-C version of it, I'm quite sure. But yeah, got some sick audio from here, and I will still be capturing a lot of additional video to add on top of this in order to make it more visually pleasing / explain things a little deeper. For now, I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I have everything laid out in front of me. First of all, because I thought that would be easier for me. But secondly, I thought it would be fun for y'all to guess which category do you think each of these items are in, best or worst. Let me know in the comments if you guessed right for any of these. So, this is the part where I'm going to be reading from the script a little now. The hard thing about figuring out what to buy first when you first get into journaling and stationery, etc., is that you might not have a clear idea of the kinds of tools you prefer using or the kind of journaling that you're going to be using, that you're going to be doing. So it can be tempting to just copy what you see. I can say that's definitely what happened with this first item on my worst purchases list, the Sakura Watercolor Field Sketchbox Kit. It's very hard for me to resist little self-contained kits like this, and I love the idea of being artsy and painting all over my journals. So when I noticed that watercoloring was so prominent amongst the stationery community, this was one of my first ever purchases. In fact, the third one in my little stationery purchases book. But I have never, ever been someone who paints. And that didn't change just because a bunch of people who like the same things I do like to paint. This is a great example of me buying something just because I thought I was supposed to have it, because everybody in the community has it. But it simply did not make sense for me to buy this because I've never been artsy in that way. I did want to add a little oomph to my pages though, and the best ways that I found for me to do that as a journaling noob were actually some of the more affordable items that I ever bought. And that leads me into my first group of stationery purchases, of best stationery purchases. Hobonichi stencils, K&K Pochito 6 stamps, and Midori motif rotating stamps. They're just easy to use, they're super affordable, and if you're a newbie, I mean, the Midori rotating stamp is a little less affordable, but it's still not terrible. And if you're a newbie, I bet you would reach for these more than even, for example, these Sailor Shikiori dual tip brush. Oh, I'm like pointing away from the microphone. That's not great. I bet you would reach for these more than even, for example, these Sailor Shikiori brush pens that I got. They're not so useless for me as to categorize them as worst purchases, although I brought them here, so I guess I kind of am, because otherwise what would they be doing in this video? I mean, I guess I just wanted to bring them up because they're a good example of me getting a little ahead of myself and making a purchase that goes against where I am currently in my journaling journey. Yes, the colors are beautiful and would make any spread look nice, but I haven't practiced enough brush lettering yet with a basic, cheaper color to think that I would get much use out of the brush tip sides of these, and I don't have any need for the fine liner sides because I already had still have a bunch of fine liners at home. Again, I'm not really artsy like that, so there's no reason to think that I would use these to draw something. But with these, all you have to do is push a little stamp or draw a little stencil, and all of a sudden you have a visual element to break up some of the blocks of text in your books and to give you something nice to look at. Speaking of blocks of text, this big old block of pages is next up on my worst purchases list. This is a letter size Levenger Circa notebook. I love my junior size Levenger Circa, and it had been in the back of my head for a while to check out the bigger size. So when I saw this fun one with the composition notebook cover that was only offered in the bigger size, it felt like fate. But even if I had checked the measurements or used my junior size to really visualize the letter size, since it's just a notebook that's twice as big, there's nothing on the product page that would have given me any indication of this notebook's super thick covers that make this way bulkier than it needs to be. I can see the benefit of the thickness of the covers in that they'll protect the pages inside better, but that really comes at the expense of the usability, in my opinion, because the bulkiness of the notebook makes it super inconvenient and downright cumbersome to use in most scenarios. Even when I'm just casually studying something I want to learn more about, it's really hard for this notebook to share the space of my very decently sized desk with a laptop or with a book or with my iPad. When I fold it back, it gets better, but it also makes me worry about the page that's touching the table. most especially at the little openings that enable you to attach the paper to the discs. I had wanted a bigger notebook to fill with whatever research I want to do on various things that I'm curious about, but it's just too big for me. I still think the junior size is too small for that though, so I just wish there were an in-between size. Levenger, if you're listening, that would be a B6. I'm sure y'all know. I just, wanted to help you out. But there were 2 books/book systems that really did me well this year, and those were the Cousin Avec and my Passport Traveler's Notebook. Both were honestly really risky purchases and are just super lucky examples of times when being risky paid off. I bought the Cousin Avec to replace my A6 Day Free that I had bought to do memory keeping in because I found it hard to catch up after missing days that I wanted to document, because I would either have to catch up on everything before documenting the current day, or I would have to simply guess where the current day would fall after pasting in and writing in all of the details I wanted to write for the days that I had missed up to that point. Plus, I was finding the pages super small for all the tip-ins I wanted to include. So I bought the Cousin to have more space per page to paste things in, as well as to have a page designated to every day so that I could jump around and document different days as I get around to them without worrying about throwing the spacing off. And I made the purchase even though, at the time, I thought the weekly pages would go to waste. I did end up leaving way more empty daily pages than I had hoped, but I don't mind them as much as I thought I would, maybe because the pages that are filled out are so special to me, and I got way more use out of the weekly section than I thought I would. I thought I wouldn't use it at all, but I came to really love using it as a way to track how I spent my time every day. I wasn't super specific about it. I would just leave this open on my desk and fill in the hours as I get a minute in between tasks throughout the day. As for my Passport Traveler's Notebook, I really bought it just because I fell in love with the limited edition Traveler's Records set, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get it for much longer before they sold out everywhere and could only be found through resellers that mark up the price exorbitantly. If you know, you know. I tried to make up some uses for it at the beginning of 2023 after buying it late 2022, but nothing really stuck because none of my plans for the book were needs that had arisen naturally. They were made-up plans created solely as an attempt to get some use out of this book. It wasn't until I went on a trip and decided to use this as my wallet as well as my portable place to write down any notes about the trip that I found how I really like to use this book, which is essentially as a capture system. This is out-of-date information now, but I'm going to keep going anyway. If you don't know what that means, it's basically a method or a place to offload all the thoughts or ideas that pop into your head that you don't want to forget. It could be a task that you suddenly remembered you haven't added to your weekly to-dos. It can be a creative idea that you want to explore and expand on later. It can be a moment that you come upon in your day that you want to make sure you journal about later, or anything else that you would want to capture. I think the Traveler's Notebook system works really well for that purpose because it makes for really messy pages filled with raw and unfiltered thoughts, and I just think that works really well with the Traveler's Spirit. Speaking of working well with the Traveler's Spirit, this medium-sized Delphonics utility case was not the dream travel journaling bag that I hoped for it to be. Obviously, I was incredibly influenced by the many people who use this bag in the journaling and planning community, but it also just genuinely seemed like a really good bag to dedicate to journaling on the go. A bag that could hold a few planners and any writing or decorating tool you could think of because it's just so roomy. The problem was that I didn't have a fleshed out journaling routine yet, or a solid lineup, or my go-to tools. I was still super early in my journaling journey, and I hadn't yet figured out what tools and books I cared about carrying around with me, which I think has to be done before you choose a way to carry them. How are you going to pick the best bag to carry your things in if you haven't even decided what you want to keep with you? After buying this bag, I came to realize that I really like keeping multiple books, too many to fit in this bag, and that I don't need a lot of journaling supplies with me, too few for this bag to make sense for that use case. Thankfully, I did find a use for it as a fountain pen accessories bag, so it's far from completely useless for me. It's just that what I got out of it has been a huge letdown because of the expectation of this bag after seeing it everywhere was so great. So in the category of stationery storage, this was the worst purchase of the year. And now on to the best purchases of the year in the stationery storage category. Ironically, a different size of the Delphonics utility pouch did me a lot of good last year, despite me not having a plan for how to use it. And honestly, kind of repeating the logic that led to the mistake of buying the first utility bag, buying it without first having a good idea of what I wanted to use it for. I moved my script a little bit so that I feel like it's a less dramatic turn whenever I'm reading it. I'm like so self-conscious about the fact that I'm straight up reading in y'all's faces. My god, that's kind of unacceptable, but also it's fine. At the time that I bought this, I thought I already had all the things I needed for my perfect journaling setup of any size, actually. But after it arrived, it was just such a cute and perfect little size to become my perfect little journaling deco bag. And it happened naturally. Those are actually my favorite stationery findings. It's nice to have a plan for a product and see it work out perfectly, but I think it feels even better to buy something because it looks beautiful even though you don't have a plan for it, but then you happen upon the perfect plan that enables you to add the product to your regular rotation. So that's what happened with this little pouch after I realized that the Canon Ivy fits perfectly in one of the little pockets, as does the passport size Traveler's Company sticker release book, and my friction stamp case fits perfectly into one of the front pockets. This is out of date information. I now use this for something different, which y'all will get to see. Everything that I am about to list is actually now living in my Hobonichi Stapo that you see right there. I think you can see it. I am blind and can't see my own viewfinder, but I still want to show how I did use this case because it was the way that I used it then that led to me putting it on this list of best purchases. I have some short deco papers in the other front pocket, some longer deco papers in the same pocket as my sticker release book, and in the middle compartment I put my 4 Sailor Shikiori dual tip markers and 4 mild liners that I choose on a seasonal basis, as well as my favorite glue stick and a little pen style pair of scissors. This might seem hopelessly incomplete and limiting to veteran journalers and artists, but as somebody who is super intimidated by trying to create a work of art on the page, these are all the tools that I need to add just a little life to the page. If I add any more things, I think I might be paralyzed by all of the options and feel bad about myself for not using all of the things to their fullest potential. I will say I wish I could put some stamps in here, but those are just bulky items that I've come to accept I'll never have a really good storage solution for, at least not a portable one, so I just keep them all in a drawer at home and use them when I'm at my desk. Honestly, discovering, what are they called? Not rubber stamps, silicone stamps? Clear stamps. Discovering clear stamps kind of changed that, but I still don't carry them around with me. Next up on my best purchases is the Galen Leather Slip and Zip case. I knew as soon as I saw this setup on Amanda Lee's YouTube channel with the double pen insert that I wanted that for my fountain pens. For me, it's perfect in terms of the amount of pens it holds, the degree of protection, and the slim form factor. I just don't think there's anything else out there that offers individual pen slots for 8 pens in this slim of a package, and I love it. It also looks really classy too. Next up on my best storage purchases is another brand / product that gets a lot of hype among stationery lovers, and that is this Euroliku 3-pen case. I had been lusting after the flat tool case that's been everywhere for a bit, but I knew that I couldn't really justify buying it when it was so similar to the Hobonichi small drawer pouch that I wasn't getting much use out of. And I also had a superior labor tool pouch that wasn't being used much. But the 3-pen case offered something unique that none of the other pouches had. In its super slim form factor, I can carry 3 fountain pens worry-free, and it also has enough room to hold just a few little different writing utensils that allow me to add some variety in my journals. So that's how I've been using this. It's so simple. I switch out the fountain pens and inks on a seasonal basis, and then on the other side I'll usually have a ballpoint pen, a pencil, a brush pen, a highlighter, another fountain pen that holds archival ink, and a glue pen. That's the past. What I have now is a mechanical pencil, a brush pen, a Pilot multi-ball. I think it's Pilot. Hold on. A Pentel Slim correction pen, a friction highlighter, so it's erasable, and a Tombow glue pen, plus some sticky notes and the tools to live by 3-inch brass scissors. So it doesn't hold too much, but since I got into stationery, I had been trying to find the perfect case to carry around the perfect amount of items, and I never thought that it would be such a simple solution. Surprisingly, it was the limits of this pen case that made it best for me because, again, I am still a newbie. I need a no-fuss setup to make the most of my journaling, and this really fit the bill. Now, this next item goes beyond a best purchase of 2023 item or best purchase in the first year of me being obsessed with stationery item. This item is like at the top of my stationery purchases Hall of Fame. I cannot believe that I haven't seen any videos on this, but this Atelier's Penelope pocket tote has been everything I was looking for in my medium Delphonics pouch. It held all of my books in my 2023 lineup at once, which honestly didn't leave any room to fit any kind of case with writing and decorating tools, but it has a super handy pocket, as you can see right here, where I kept a bunch of often used tools all year, like correction tape in both white and cream, scissors, glue pens, glue tape, you name it. Although most journaling sessions won't include every single book in a lineup as large as mine was, so it's super easy to just remove 2, 3, 4 books and fill that space with all the tools you want. And I'm not ashamed to take this whole thing to the coffee shop with me. So for me, it's just a perfect go-to bag as someone with a multi-book system who likes to make sure that I have everything I could ever need during my journaling sessions and could catch up on multiple books at once. I feel like my lighting is changing so much and it's making me really nervous. I'm gonna open my window a little bit maybe. We're gonna make it. I'm really nervous to see how this footage turned out because I am not re-recording. So I can't believe I'm saying this. It was written into the script. I can't believe I'm saying this. But these adorable little mini letter sets and message cards are next on my worst purchases list. I love a mini card, and I really wanted to send more mail to my friends this year, but I found it difficult to find a way to use or gift these. By the way, that's the new use for this Delphonics extra small utility pouch. Now that I keep all the things that were in here on my desk, I keep all of my mini letter writing and card writing things in here. So I love a mini card, and I really wanted to send more mail to my friends this year, but I found it difficult to find a way to use or gift these. They're not really big enough to send in the mail, and it would feel weird putting a tiny card in an envelope big enough to mail with nothing else in it, but I just want to give the card sometimes. But also, the lines just don't give enough room for me to express my love to anyone I'd want to give a card as cute as this to. They'd probably be best paired with a little gift where your written words for the person wouldn't be the focus, but maybe I just didn't give enough gifts last year. Also, they're so cute, it's just hard to let them go. I just want to keep them for myself. Maybe I'll have a little box that I fill with these containing little messages of love for myself. Or maybe I'll try harder to pair them with a nice gift for a friend. I don't know. What I do know is that these were way more cute than they were easy to use. Since we're on the topic of gifting someone something, it's a great time to talk about the portion of my best purchases that include items that can instantly level up a package. Despite me not being able to find many uses for the super cute little memo sets, I did use a lot of these memo brown letterpress cards from Classicy. I think maybe because the mini letter sets are so cute, they feel almost juvenile, and that makes me feel like I have to give them to somebody I already have a good level of familiarity with, whereas these feel appropriate to give to anyone you want to give a nice little moment to. They just look a little fancy because of the cream color and the little border on the sides. I tend to stamp a little message like happy birthday or thank you on the bordered side with my alphabet stamps from Kokomo no Kao, which is another item in this category, by the way. And then I'll just write a little message on the back. And for me, it's the perfect amount of space because it is a small card, so I don't feel pressured to write too much, but at the same time, since it doesn't have any lines like the mini letter sets, I can just write smaller and space my lines closer together if I do have kind of a lot to say. About the alphabet stamps that I briefly mentioned earlier, they actually almost went into the worst purchases category because I did use them way less than I expected them to. I thought I would be using them all in my books whenever I wanted a page to look extra nice, but I have found that with everyday journaling, I just don't have the energy to pull out stamps. But the reason why I put these still in the best purchases is because I have reached for these a lot when it comes to gifting. I like to wrap gifts in craft paper, and a lot of times I'll just stamp someone's name or the reason for the celebration, like happy birthday or Merry Christmas, directly on the packaging. And what was once a tedious way to complicate a journal spread is now an easy way to elevate a gift. Another easy way to elevate a gift is to wrap twine around it, which brings us to the next best purchase, paper twine by Paperfine, I believe it's pronounced. I got this spool from Baumkuchen in my favorite color. They call it light emerald, and I remember thinking at the time that I hella overpaid for it, but I really have reached for it quite a bit. And because it's my favorite color and craft paper is so plain, I really like adding that little pop of color that adds just a teeny bit of personality into the packaging. Something else I thought I overpaid for at BK but also made its way into this category of best purchases is this Yohaku clear packing tape in Sound of Rain. Usually I just put a little piece of paper over the twine somewhere and boom, aesthetic gift. Plus, I hope the water droplets remind them of me because I have the whole I'm a mermaid thing going on. And it's really awesome finding the things that are super unnecessary but also super cool. I do not need to have aesthetic packages, but they truly look so much cooler and I feel so much better gifting them when they have just a little bit of this tape somewhere on them. This product really surprised me in the best way. You know what surprised me in the worst way though? This Superior Labor recycled leather zip organizer. Oh my god. In the script I say I'm going to have a whole video reviewing this. I already put that video up. It's been up for a little bit now. So you could hear all about my issues with this cover from that video. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it here because this is already so long. I will say somebody in the comments of that video told me that I think the natural leather zip organizers are better. They're not as tight fitting and therefore won't damage your books like this one will. It's all in that video. Just go watch that one. I did buy some other covers this year though, covers that I love enough to put into my best stationery purchases category. The first one has to be the Midori paper cover in A5. Girl, this is the best. I love using this cover. Let's see why in the script. I use it to house my morning pages books, and I love it because it was a really cheap way to get something that develops a patina. That's something you hear about a lot in the journaling community. A lot of leather products are used or brass products, and people go crazy over the patina, which isn't something that technically happens with this paper cover now that I've looked up the definition, but also one of the definitions was a surface appearance of something grown beautiful, especially with age or use. And that does happen to my little cover. Morning pages are the writing and journaling practice that I am most consistent with, that I can most trust myself to actually follow through with. So it's nice to have the same cover to represent morning pages to me, no matter how often the book inside changes. Which is also part of the appeal because I can casually change out the book and get a different paper feel for my fountain pens, but the holder of the book remains my morning pages cover. That's always what this cover is going to signify. And as the years pass and I continue to write my morning pages, my cover will continue to evolve with me, and I really love that. I would also count this little accessory as one of my best purchases. It is the Midori embroidery bookmark sticker. It's just such a no-brainer that a book I write in every day should have a way to find my page. And since it's stuck on the cover and not the books themselves, I can use it in every single book that goes in here. Plus, it's simply a cute and easy way to add some customization and personality to your books. I wish I had gotten the coffee one, but I do think this one fits really well since my morning pages are stream of consciousness and end up resembling a diary, and since I like using the space to use up my fountain pens and ink. The next cover on my best purchases list is one I'm really surprised didn't end up in the worst purchases list. There is truly no reason why this cover should have worked for me. I bought this just because I fell in love with the colorway. I had been watching it for a little bit and the A5 sold out, so I felt like I had to jump on the A5 Slim before the colorway just sold out completely. Even though I didn't use a single A5 Slim book. And I don't think there are exact dimensions for A5 Slim, like I think it's a size that varies, but the cover is made to fit a very specific planner system called the Jibun Techo, which I did not use before getting this cover, but of course, after getting this cover, I had to try the planner, and honestly, it's really, really nice. I love that it uses a 3-book system. I love how comprehensive it is for organizing our lives. But honestly, even if the planner weren't that great by itself, this is just one of those things that might just be beautiful enough for me to get use out of just because I want to look at it. It's so beautiful that nothing else matters to me, which is a rare sentiment to feel for stationery or stationery adjacent items. But maybe it also helps that there's nothing about this cover to complain about. I had just the Jibun Techo diary book in it for a while and it fit fine. And when I added the other 2 books in the system, it did just as well. I have all 3 in there right now. It feels nice in the hand. It doesn't attract a lot of dirt. It's easy to add accessories to, though it is on the brink of being too thick. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, because I had, I'm not going to pull them out because, again, there's too much. I already have, whatever these are called in here. And I also have, like, the check mark accessories, or accessory, and I put that in there. And when I put that in there, that's what I'm talking about. That's when it's, like, almost on the brink of being too thick. It just does its job nicely while also looking very beautiful, and I just love it. The end. Just kidding. We talked about the things that hold your books. Now we have to talk about the things that hold your pens. Actually, real quick side note. I have another cover that is like similar to this, but a different size. I'm going to get that real quick. I believe this colorway is called Kelp. And I mean, like, in my understanding, it's basically the exact same thing. Oh no, this is the newness. I forget. I don't know how it's pronounced. But I don't know if that kind of paint doesn't rub off as easily. This had a lot of color rub off on my planner, and this has not had that problem at all whatsoever. So, something to note. That's why this made the best purchases and this didn't. Also because the colorway is way more beautiful to me. Anyway, on to the things that hold your pens. On to the next superior labor product that really disappointed me. I promise I love TSL, but some of the products are just so much prettier than they are functional, and this is one of those products. As y'all may have noticed, I am a mer person. So you can understand how excited I was to have my home represented in such a beautiful stationery or stationery adjacent item. But I really struggled to figure out how to use this case. I tried putting some fountain pens in it, despite people's warnings that pens would rub up against each other due to the lack of individual slots for them, and thus would just get scratched up. I thought they were just being wimps, but then I saw this on my TWSBI Eco. No thank you. But it seemed like there was no other stationery product for which this form factor would be the best case. It's super bulky if it's rolled. It's hard to even roll at all. And even when it's just folded, it's quite wide and tall, but with a lot less space in it than other pen cases in similar sizes. So right now, it just sits in my desk as a place for pens that don't fit in either category of cheaper starter pens to throw in this case, or favorites to throw in the Galen leather case that I already showed y'all, or seasonal pens to hold in the Euroligu case that I also showed y'all. It's probably my least functional fountain pen accessory. And these are my most functional fountain pen accessories, all of which are in my best purchases. I just said these and I didn't put what I'm talking about. But I know I have to be talking about a syringe for one. And I know that I'm talking about an inkwell, which I have lost. Let me go ahead and see what the script says. I watch quite a lot of fountain pen content, and I'm appalled that I don't hear more about these. I think I'm talking about the inkwells, because I honestly find them to be essential for filling pens that use basically any filling mechanism other than cartridge converter. Some ink jars just aren't very convenient to fill from, and sample vials are so light and flimsy, and the opening is small, and it terrifies me to try to refill from them. But if I pour the ink into this Ink Miser Ink Shot inkwell, it's been lost for months, and it has really decreased my quality of life. I'm reassured by the base that I won't be tipping it over. The opening is plenty big for any pen that I've tried, and the cone shape ensures that the last drops will pool to the bottom, enabling me to suck up as much of the ink as possible. This is really painful. I really miss my inkwell. It's supposed to be in that Dolphonics fountain pen accessory case, and it's not, so I'm very sad. And a syringe, in my opinion, is the cartridge converter equivalent of the inkwell. It's a tool that just opens up a world of possibilities when you're first starting out with fountain pens. Pre-filled cartridges come in super limited colors, and converters can get pricey, so syringes enable you to put any ink you please into a cartridge that was once some other color, meaning you get to recycle these plastic pieces that were designed to be used once. Hooray, Earth! Plus, you save yourself the money of having to buy a converter, and a syringe is even better than a cone when it comes to trying to ensure you get every drop of ink into your pen. And just like the cartridges, you can use it over and over and over again before having to replace it. I have it in its like stored position, so the needle part, blunt tip needle I think it's called, just twists on, and then when you're finished using it, you just twist it off and pull this out and put that in there, and boom. Yeah, it's really nice and convenient to store. Next on my best purchases list, I have actual fountain pens. I'll talk about the way more accessible ones first. This is the Platinum Preppy, and it's the fountain pen that made me fall in love with fountain pens. It was barely over $2 from the Hobonichi website as an add-on to an order of planners, and I've gotten so much value out of it. This pen is often recommended to beginners to try fountain pens because of how inexpensive it is, but I was skeptical because of how it looks like a disposable pen. I thought I'd have to try a heftier pen to really get the feel of fountain pens, but that's just not true. This is all you need, and I'm really happy that I purchased it. Next up, I want to talk about the Jinhouse Shark. This is an even better deal than the Preppy. Though I got the Preppy for $2 since I ordered it from the Hobonichi website, It typically retails in the US for about $5 to $7, and you can get the Shark for just under $4, and it comes with a converter, meaning that you'll be able to play with different ink colors right away without having to buy anything other than the sample vials. This pen is just as wonderful to use as the Preppy. It's super smooth and pleasant, and I really like the grip, and I don't think you can get a better bang for your buck than a nice, pleasant fountain pen with a converter for $4. This one is the Mahjong. I've heard it pronounced Wankai. I personally think it's Wansai. Mahjong Wansai Mini. And it's just a slight step up from the previous pens. You can get it for a little over $20, and it comes in a bunch of different colors, though I think it's super cool to just get the clear one so you can easily see your ink color and ink level. It's an eyedropper fountain pen, so you can just fill the whole body with ink and use it that way, and it comes with a little pipette so you don't have to buy any additional accessories to get ink in it. I just love how ultra portable it is. I think the small size makes it a little more fun to use, but it also is just another smooth writer. It's been a super reliable writer for me since I got it, and this is probably the first pen I'd recommend as a step up from a Preppy or a Shark, especially since it's a little cheaper than the other oft recommended starter pens like Kaweco Sports or Lamy Safaris. The next pen is actually the most expensive one in my collection, but it's in my best purchases because it was worth every penny. It's so nice to be able to get a pen that has a wonderful reputation all around, like the Pilot Vanishing Point, but to be able to get it in a limited edition color that fits your style or personality, like I did with this Pilot Decimo. This is aquamarine blue, and it was actually a Japan-only release, but of course I got it on eBay. I wanted to mention it because sometimes the money is worth it. I think there's a lot of shame around spending a lot of money in a hobby, which is definitely understandable considering how costly it can get, especially for items that we don't get a lot of use out of. But sometimes the super expensive thing is worth it if it's something that can be used every day and that reflects you really well. Aside from the aquamarine blue color that I love, I absolutely adore gold trim. Like, I think silver is so ugly. And a pen is the most basic of all tools that I use constantly. So having this super basic tool in a version of it that's hefty and fancy and beautiful and so specific to me has been so wonderful. Like, that's the sweet spot of this hobby. Collecting little things that you use constantly that reflect you so well. I don't think I put this Pilot Kakuno in like my script or my list to all, but I wanted to add it last second because maybe I didn't put it in my best or worst purchases because I didn't purchase it. My husband actually got this for me, but this is just, I mean, it's very highly recommended and it's understandable why. This actually might be the first pen I recommend as a step up from a Preppy or a Shark. It's a little more expensive than a Preppy or a Shark, but not yet as expensive as a Lamy Safari or a Kaweco Sport, or a Wansai Mini, but it's so nice, and they come in a lot of different cute styles, and I love how it writes. An example of something expensive that is not worth it. As I was saying, an example of something expensive that was not worth it is this Galen Leather wooden writing box. Honestly, I only got it because of its reduced price in Galen Leather's second sale, but maybe if I had gotten it at regular price, the warping wouldn't be happening. There's a huge gap between the top and bottom, and when I wrote the script, I said I can barely close the box, but at this point, I can't close the box at all anymore. But even before that started happening, I never got much use out of this box. It's like some of my TSL products in that it's absolutely gorgeous, but there's just no way to get good use out of this, in my opinion. There are a lot of people on YouTube who love it, but the way I see it, it does two things, and it does neither of them well. It's a box, so it holds stuff, but the box is already pretty heavy by itself, so it gets super heavy super quickly to the point that I don't even feel comfortable carrying it around with the leather strap that Galen Leather offers for it for an additional price. And it's a desk, but it's not ideal for that either because it's just too small and the wood is so smooth, the things on top slide around too much, even with this little plaque here that can kind of act as a stopper. I was between this and the Levenger old school lap desk, and I think I should have gone with that instead because it's definitely a better desk, and I think it might even be a better place to hold stuff. But it's not as aesthetic, so that's why I didn't get it, and that was a mistake. This is beautiful, but simply does not function well. Okay, let me take out what I have in there, and we're getting down to the last items of my best worst lists. Maybe it's a little backwards, but I'm leaving y'all with all of the super basic, super small, little often used stationery tools that can make any journaling lover's life easier. We'll start with the Jetstream Ocean Plastic. I was first introduced to Jetstream from the Hobonichi exclusive pens that they give for free with the purchase of a planner each year, and I was really impressed with the pens. I couldn't believe that they write so smoothly as ballpoints. I thought that kind of smoothness was only possible from gel pens. I thought the 0.5 millimeter that comes in those Hobonichi pens would be too thick for me because I came from being a 0.3 Energel stan. But the 0.5 felt like a 0.3 to me, and this 0.7 feels like a 0.5 to me. This pen for me has the perfect balance of boldness of the line, smoothness, size, and aesthetic. It's a little thicker than your standard poopy ballpoint pen. I really wrote poopy. It's a little thicker than your standard poopy ballpoint pen, but it's not as thick as most multi-pens, so it's just really comfortable to hold. And of course, you can feel good about yourself for buying and using it because it's made from recycled marine litter found in the water surrounding Japan. It's wonderful. Next, I have some glue products. I've been astounded by how many innovative adhesive products there are out there. I only have a small selection here. I'll start with the one I came upon first, which is the Tombow glue pen. I love it because of its convenient form factor and because it's the best option you have for any tiny things you want to paste. And the glue is surprisingly powerful for having come from such a tiny vessel. Next, I have the dot liner tack from Kokuyo with removable adhesive. First of all, I was over the moon when I discovered tape runners. I think applying adhesive in this way is really fun and convenient, and even more so when it's removable. For me, it's great because I tend to collect a lot of ephemera and I don't always get to put it in my planner right away, and it can get super messy with paper around my desk super quickly. So I can use this to stick the paper to the date in my planner that the paper corresponds to, and I can always go back when I'm ready to make a spread and move the paper around, maybe cut it down. Even in the middle of making the actual spread, I can change my mind about where things look best. So I love that this adhesive gives me the flexibility to move things around. Last but not least, in the adhesives category, another item from Kokuyo. This is the glue stick in small and wrinkle-free with the wrinkle-free formula. So this same formula, which is meant to minimize the wrinkle from gluing paper together, is also available in medium and large size sticks. And there are other formulas too, like disappearing glue. I'm so scared this is gonna be dry because no, it's fine. Whew. There are other formulas like disappearing glue, which helps you clearly see where you've applied the glue, and also just the regular white formula. I've seen people kind of rave about these. I'm not sure why. It does have the square component to make it easier to get to the corners of your paper, though it doesn't really make that big a difference to me. Plus the squareness of it helps it to not roll off your desk, though I think it's easy to just stand it up like a regular glue stick or put it in your bag, so those parts don't sway me very much. But they are features of this glue stick, so I wanted to mention them. I really can't even remember why I got one of these in the first place, considering that I was really turned off from the idea of glue sticks because they reminded me of elementary school and I wanted to have an adult journaling setup. But is this not the most sophisticated glue stick you've ever seen? Plus, it just glides on really nicely and has like this really distinct smell that smells like you really shouldn't be inhaling it, but it's just so different from an elementary school glue stick. So it helps further solidify that distinction of this adult glue stick from kids glue sticks, in my opinion. Next, I have a correction tape. I was just so excited to find this because it matches the Hobonichi Weeks perfectly. Even if you don't care too much about having a super aesthetic or pretty planner, it can be distractingly ugly to cross things out or to have a big patch of white on cream paper. So I really appreciate having a correction tape of the right color and in such a cute little package too. Plus, you get different width choices for what's going to be best for your needs. I like getting the 2.5, which I regretted at first because it's so small, but I've come to be grateful for my choice because the Hobonichi Weeks is small and calls for small writing, which calls for small correction tape. And this one makes it really easy to cover just what I need to and be super precise, and I've never had an issue with it malfunctioning like I have with other correction tapes. There was a time that I refused to use correction tapes because of how often they would mess up. I'm finding it kind of hard to articulate how they would mess up, but if you've used correction tape before, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And this one from Plus has never given me that kind of issue. The next item is also from Plus and is also another one that I forgot to lay out with all of the items in the beginning. And you may not consider it to be stationery, but I got it from Tokyo Pen Shop, so I'm going to say that it is. And it is this Keshipan box opener and roller. I had never understood the need for a box opener, really. I thought it was just as easy to get a knife or some scissors or even just muscle the package open with your hands. But no. For me, it's worth it to get this little tool out every time and easily glide across any tape and perfectly open a box free of struggle. The other feature of it, I honestly don't get too much use out of, but it's perfect for me as someone who likes sharing things on YouTube because it's a little roller that hides your sensitive information after being rolled on it. So if I ever want to make an unboxing video, I can really give the full experience by unboxing from the outermost box that my package was shipped in, as long as I glide this little thing over my address. I'll be good to go. I love this little thing. Last but not least are these Midori Chirato index clips. They're just little tabs that you can easily move around and reuse over and over and over again. It's really impressive how easily these slip on a page, and I do have to admit that they've slightly damaged a few of my pages in books I carry around when placed on the side, but when I move them to the top, they've been totally fine, and of course they'd be fine on the side too if my books stayed at home. They are a little expensive, but when you consider that you can reuse them for almost ever, you save money in the long run, and you eliminate the frustration of regular sticky tabs that can be finicky and are so easy to mess up the application for. Besides, those are usually only used for the beginnings of the months, maybe to take you to the beginning of a weekly section or a daily section of a book too, but these can be put anywhere you want to mark anything you choose. And I am ending it with the tiniest, worst purchase ever. I actually lost it. That's how bad it was. I just completely lost track of it because I didn't care about it. It was the Sunstar Stickle. I don't know how you pronounce that word. Scissors, compact type in mint green and white. And although they were adorable and super convenient to carry around, what you gain from the convenience of carrying them, you lose in the inconvenience of using them. They're not great to use. When you take off the cap, they just pop open, so you just have to press together to cut instead of with regular scissors where you have to do both the opening and the closing of the handles. And without the loops that regular scissors have for your fingers, you really have less control over these little scissors, and they're not that easy to maneuver, and they're also just quite flimsy and not that sharp, so they're just totally not worth it to me. As an alternative, I recommend the Reime Pen Cut Premium scissors. They look like they'd be flimsy too, but they're actually surprisingly sturdy, and the blade is a little longer and easier to work with, and the blades are quite sharp, at least when compared to... Hey, so my camera died at the end there, but that was essentially the end of the video. There just wasn't a proper sign off, so that's what this is. But I didn't plan what I was going to say. I just Wow, don't you need to decompress after all that? Oh my goodness. Thank you so much if you made it through the whole video. I hope it wasn't too awful that I was reading for a lot of it. Who knows, I might put like so much B-roll over it that it's not even like a thing, a bother. Let me know if there's any other kind of content that you would like to see from me, or any suggestions that you might have on how I may improve my content. I'm always open to that. So yeah, thanks so much if you made it this far, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Ooh, I can't make this more difficult for myself. I have to be okay with being imperfect. Oh my gosh, I need to get my pouch again. My knees are hurting on this ergonomic chair, which is a rare place to feel. I've come across a few like potential typos. That's the most, a rare place, which is a rare feeling to feel. I lost my place in my script. Thank God I'm almost done. Jesus, I talk so much. I still have so much to go. I'm prisoner to my own work. I've been astounded by how many innovated. I mean, they were innovated, right?